which helps you to create objects on the runtime. Okay, now you must be having doubt that always objects are created at runtime. So it's not just creating objects at runtime, but also defining them and taking the decision what will be the type of object at the runtime, right? So whenever you write a code, you generally define the class, and class is compiled, and then at the time of execution, when you create an object of that class, then object will be created. So basically the class definition is done at the before the compile time, when we are actually writing the code. Now when I say class can be defined at runtime, then how is that possible? You are not going to write the code during runtime and then define any class. So how is that possible? So basically it is there is a new term which is called, or there are two terms which is called late binding and early binding. So what is late binding and what is early binding, you will understand when I'll explain you this example. Okay, so basically it's a normal feature, so even I can explain it using a normal C# application. So even console application. Okay, so say now when you are writing an application, while writing an application, or an application may have a requirement which says depending on user input you create an object, right? So say if I have to create an object of a class A, I'll simply write in my code class A, some object name equals to new class A, and class A's object will be created. But what if this decision has to be taken or by the user? So you have around 4 classes and you have to create an object of a single class out of that, depending on some user criteria or user input. Now those cases we have already seen. We have used if else, we have used switch case and all. Depending on that, we have actually created classes or we have created objects dynamically, and we have taken this decision at the runtime as to which class has to be instantiated or which class's object has to be created. Now question comes, what if user has say if you have a your application may have a drop down and you select one drop down. For the same purpose, another object has to be created, and you select another drop down, another object has to be created. So for all these things, you actually need a way to get few things, or mainly to read the information of the class during runtime. So you have around 4 or 5 classes available. Out of that, at the runtime, there should be a method available for you so that you can get the type of the class, and then you check whether that type is applicable for this task or not. If that type is valid or suitable, then only you create the object. So such things like getting the type of object and then instantiating the object, or getting the information about the class itself. That thing is called reflection. So reflection is, it's it's a set of APIs which gives you methods, or which give you tools to reflect the class. Reflect the class means to know about few properties of the class. Like you can get the full name of the class, you can get the type of the class. All these things can be done using reflection APIs. Okay, so I'll just okay. So here is a basic this thing program. So it actually uses this, as you can see here, there is a type uh, and get type. So type is the class name and get type is the method name. So this comes from reflection, and as you can see here, in here we are actually trying to get the information of this customer class. Now we don't have a customer class, so we'll just add a customer class here. So this customer class is uh, added here, and in this you can define whatever you want. So even we have a class here. So that's what we have defined this customer class, and in our this main program we have called this get type. Get type is a static function, so you know the difference between static method and object method. So this type is the name of the class, and in that we are using with the class name. So that means get type must be a static function, otherwise you won't be able to use it. Okay, and it returns a type. Get type returns a type. So actually it analyzes this customer class at the runtime, and it gives you a type object, and that type object has many information about the class. So as you can see here, t dot full name, that will give you the full name of the class. T dot, that will give you the name. T dot namespace will give you the namespace in which the class is defined. Same way you have methods. So you want to know what all methods have been defined in customer class. So you have a method info object. Now method info, as you can see here, you can't access it here. So for that you will have to include or import reflection here. Okay, so as soon as you import reflection namespace, you can see this method info error has gone. So this method info is a or you can say get methods is a method itself which gives you a array of all the methods in that class. Okay, so just like it will give you a array of methods, you can loop through all that array, and you can print that, or whatever you want to do you can do with that. Okay, same way you will have properties. So in our customer class, as you can see here, we have id and name property, we have customer and this customer, the two constructors, we have print id and print name, two methods. So this is all. So how many methods we have? We have around two methods, two constructors, two properties. So all this information can be retrieved using reflection APIs, right? And how to get reflection APIs? First call get type, get a type, and now on that type you have APIs like full name, namespace, get methods, get properties. Okay, same way you have get constructors. So these all APIs will give you. I mean, they are self-explanatory what they do. And when I execute this, so as you can see here, full name of class is reflection.customer. Just the class name is customer, and just the namespace is reflection. Then these are the methods in the class. Now you can see here that you have defined only two methods, that is print id and print name. So these are the two methods which we have defined print id and print name. So this get id, set id, get name, set name, to string equals, get hash code, get type, all these things were not defined by us, but still you can see that they are the members of this class. Can you tell me why these are here, and or how these elements are here? The class,
Maybe they are defined at runtime.
it's not defined here, but if you can recall, uh, when I was teaching you the hierarchy of the classes, so I they all are. So hierarchy means over there can be a base class, then a super class, or a base class can have subclass, subclass can have a super class. Same way, the class who is not a subclass of any class is actually a subclass of object class. So every class in C Sharp, every class in .NET is actually derived from a root class. That root class is called object class, right? And that object class has these. So if you remember, I told you that the to string is already there, and we have to sometime override the to string, right? So this is just a proof that to string is already there. Okay, same way equals is a method which is already there. Sometimes we have to, most of the times we have to override equals, we have to override to string, things like that. And get id, set id, get name, set name uh, are the, we have actually created a property, and in property we have defined getters and setters. So when we have first introduced properties, I told you that it is a shortcut way for the programmer, for the developer, to write these getters and setters instead of manually writing in get id, and then it will in that say return id, and then set id, and then define methods like that. You just define the properties here. So you just define this, and the .NET does the trick for you. It defines this get id, set id, get name, and set name functions for you, right? So you increase this, you add one more this thing here. I'll say this as salary, and salary I want it only to be a read only property, so I remove this. So now salary is a property which has only getter, and now if I So now as you can see, you have get id, set id, get name, get salary, and set salary. Okay, so that was about the methods in the class. Then you have properties. As you can see here, we have three properties: id, name, salary. So those things are listed here. And then we have constructors. So we have mainly two constructors here. One is the default constructor, and another is this constructor with id and name. So as you can see here, you have two constructors. So dot ctor actually represents constructor, and it has first one has two arguments, second one is without any argument, right? So reflection APIs, if you see basic definition says that it gives you information about the class during runtime. So class information can be got using the reflection APIs. Now question comes, what is the use of this? Okay, and before that, as you can see here, you have got the type using. So to get the type, you have an API here called type.getType. Same way you have another way to do this, that is uh, we have used the get type. Next is this type of. So type of is a method which actually gives you the type of the class which you want. Okay, so even this will give you the same. So it does the same thing. Okay, so second way to do this was this type of, right? And same thing can be done. So we have used actually class name in both these, get type and type of. And same thing, if you want, can be done on the object also. So first you can create an object of this class. So we have created an object, and you want to use get type, so you can use that directly on this customer object itself. Oh, C1 dot get type. Okay, and how we are able to use this, as you can see here in the list of methods, we also have a get type method here. So this object itself has a get type method, so that's why we have used on the object this. From the object we are calling this get type method, so that will give you the type information of uh, the class. As here, type is the class which is defined here. It has all these members. Among that, mostly which we will be using in our classes, what I have shown you, and it has many other functions also, like it will tell you whether the class has class is an abstract class, whether a member of the class is an array or not. All these things are defined here, but basically we'll be using only the things which we have used now. So that was just the basic introduction of the reflection. Okay, now we'll see the use or so generally what will you do by getting the list of methods, or what will you do by getting the list of the types of properties, or by getting information of the class. Okay, so we'll see an example now, more near to the real world example. So we'll actually create a form, we'll create a text box, and we'll also create a button. And button, so generally in this id itself, you see, right? So when you go somewhere over here, and when I say c1 dot, so what do I get? I get list of all the methods and properties there, right? Equals hash. So while running the program, when I, if I run this program, what what I get is just a list. It's not interactive. But one very basic use which we have seen from the beginning is that when I press in this ID, when I press C1 dot, I get list of all the uh, elements, all the elements of the class, or basically all the properties and methods of the class. So it helped me, someone who has developed this ID, the Visual Studio ID, must have used these reflection APIs to get the list of all these methods and all, right? So that's what is the basic or the most basic use which I can say. And same thing, we'll just create an application to create a text box. In the text box, you just have to write the name of the class and then a button. Button will be actually to give you the type information. Then we'll have list boxes, first for method, second for properties, and then third for constructors. So just like what we have done in our console application, so same thing we'll do in our this Windows application. Windows Form application. Okay, so it gives us a form. We'll use the same form. So basically here I have a label. So we have these two things, and then we'll have a list box, three list boxes. So okay. So list box one. This is for list of methods. Okay, so we have these three list boxes, which will actually have list of uh, name itself says list of methods, list of properties, and list of constructors. Okay, now so that is the UI which is ready. Now next is we'll have to write the code for this. Okay, so now code has to be written for as soon as I say display type info. So this list boxes should be populated. So it should first read from this text box, and then it should get the information from this, and it should display this. So just go to that button event listener, and here we have to just start writing the code. So first we'll have to get the type. So we have to read the type name from the text box. So for that, okay, so our type name is in the type name text box. From there we have got the text, and we have created a type name variable, and that type name variable we are using this get type to get this type uh, object. So now as you have the types ready, so these three lines will just clear all the list boxes. After that we have to display the methods. So say method, okay, method info. Before method info we want that system got refreshed. Once we have this, then method info array of that. So what basically we have done is we have got all the methods, and one by one we took this method, and method's name, only the method name we have entered in this, we have added to this list of methods. Okay, now same thing has to be done for the property and constructors. So constructor info and property info. So our class was, okay, there is no class there. If I say program class, right? So this is what you actually have seen in your IDs also. IDE means the integrated development environment, like your Visual Studio. How these, uh, you can say um, the code assist in your IDE works. Okay, so that was one of the use of this reflection APIs. Now we'll see early binding and late binding. So as you can see here, you have I'll just create a new project to show you the difference between early binding and late binding. This is very basic uh, program which you have maybe have studied in your first class itself, that you have a class and then you call the if you want to call method in that class, say here we have a get full name, which is method of this customer class, and we have a program class which creates a new customer and calls this, say okay. So what we have done is we have created a new instance or object of that class and we are calling this. So this is very basic. So by default, that means what? By default, what you do is early binding. So this is early binding. Okay. Now, what is late binding? So that is what we'll see now. So same thing we'll do, but we'll change our customer is same. As you can say, we are not changing the customer class. What we are doing is we are doing some changes over here. So late binding means, uh, as you can see here, you are deciding which method to call at the time of runtime. So as you can see here, first, so you don't want, or you don't know which assembly has to be loaded, whether it is programs or customer or say employee or students. There can be any number of classes here. So we don't know that. So here in this case, in case of early binding, at the time of compilation itself, you know, or just when you compile the code and after compilation you execute this, there won't be any decision taken at the runtime that which class has to be class has to be instantiated and which method has to be called. But in some cases where you want to do it or you want to postpone it to the execution time, then you can go for this uh, reflection. So here, which assembly we are right now executing, to get that assembly, you have a function called assembly dot get executing assembly. Now for this you must have reflection. So using system dot reflection. Okay. So assembly, just like uh, I told, right? Assembly, I mean, the reflection actually reflects the current things happening there. So you want what is the class information, even you want the current assembly being executing. So even those things are given at this, or that can be got using this reflection APIs. So here, from the executing assembly, I have called this get type method, and get type method on this binding dot customer, in this binding class customer class I have applied this. I have got this customer type. Okay. Now in this customer type, so right now there is only type information which you have. Now, of that type, if you want to create an object, so you can create an object using activator class. So we have used two new classes here, assembly class and activator class. In activator class, you have a method called create instance, which takes a type and creates an instance of this. So it is same as this first line of your code, right? So for this first line, you have written around 3 lines of code here. Okay. Next is the method which you want to execute. Okay. So this get full names is the method in this customer class, get full name, and we are going to execute this method. Okay. So from this type get method, again a reflection API, it gives you the full name of this get full name, or the whatever API you pass it here. Now this API will take some methods. So what all method it is taking, that I mean what all parameters it is taking, you create a list of those parameters, and as you can see here, in this case it will take two parameters. Get method is taking two parameters, so we'll have to pass two parameters to it. So simply create a list or an array of string saying method parameters and array of two strings. In this method parameters, okay, so we have created two parameters, and till now we haven't called this method. Okay, so we have written code. These three lines of the code are for the first line, that is creating object, and now we are mainly on the second line, so that is we have not yet called the method. So now we'll have to invoke the method, and to invoke the method you just call the method. Okay, now if you see here, this was the name of the method and this was the method info. So this is what we'll have to call: get full name dot. As you can see here, you will have a invoke API. So this invoke API invokes this method. Okay, but you haven't passed any method parameters here. Okay, so you will have to pass that. So you will have to pass two things here. As you can see in the details, you will have to pass the object of which this method is part of, and then the parameter list. So object which is of which this method is part of is this customer instance. So pass that customer instance, and the parameters is in this method parameters. Okay, so this is how you call. Now get full name actually gives you a if you see here, it gives you a string, so there should be a string to catch it. So string name equals to this. Okay, but this invoke returns you a object, because invoke doesn't know which API you are going to call or which method you are going to call, right? So it returns a generic object called object. So now you must typecast it to your string. So now this full name is having this string. So now these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines are actually equivalent to this one line of code. And then just you have to print the output. Okay, so now as you can see here, the output is same, the purpose is same, right? We have done the same thing. Then what is the use of this late binding, or which one is better, which one is okay? So we have seen both early binding and late binding. We have also seen that late binding has so many, for the same task much you have more complex code as compared to the early binding code. So in what all scenario do you think it can be used? Okay, so that is so as you can see here, late binding means At the runtime, you decide which object has to be instantiated, which method has to be called, and so on. So it actually helps you in deferring or in postponing this decision making to the time of is early binding will be fast when your project is, but in late binding you take this decision during the runtime. So that is a disadvantage of late binding. But what is the advantage of late binding? So the advantage of late binding is, if there is advantage is only specific to the case or to the application. If your application says that or I don't want this decision to be taken at the compile time, for me, take this decision at the runtime only. In that case, it helps you. It gives you a method to do that. That's all. So that is what reflection is mainly about. So that's all about reflection. Uh, what is next? Next is Silverlight, and I've already shown you Silverlight on that day, but I think it was not much clear because of disturbances. So Silverlight is just like you have. So for Silverlight, first you'll have to install Silverlight. So it won't come if it is not installed. You'll have to go to the Microsoft website. From there, download the Silverlight and just install it. Okay. So Silverlight is nothing but a UI designing tool again, and it just uh, you can say you have seen WPF, and you have also seen ASP websites. How do we form ASP websites and all? The front end, that is using XAML file, and so and yeah, XAML is used to actually create the UI. So there you actually, in XML, you actually define what all elements should be there and all, and then you just use that. Okay. In Silverlight, we do the same thing. Only thing is, here also you have everything in terms of uh, XAML itself. So what is the difference between Silverlight and what is the difference between ASP websites, which also uses the same thing? So the answer is, say if you write a Windows form application, do you think you will be able to run that form application on Mac system or Linux system? No, right? Because for that you should have a Windows runtime environment. Then only you can run a Windows form application, even a WPF application. Okay, so in order to run Windows-based application, mainly the UI applications, on the or mainly to provide platform independence, so that you write it once and you can use it, even Linux and Mac users should be able to run your application. To do that, what the MS guys or Microsoft guys have done, they have come up with this new technology, or it's a new layer called Silverlight. So Silverlight is nothing, but it is something which will be there in your, which can be installed on all the platforms, and it itself is a platform for Windows application. So now your Windows application, Windows Form application, or even your website applications, all those applications can run on this Silverlight. So you can say that it is a layer above the platform on which you are working. Say if I'm working on Linux, I cannot use Windows application. So Silverlight will be a platform on the Linux platform itself, and on this Silverlight, I will be able to run the Windows application. And generally, it will come. Mainly, you can have a, and how to do that. Say, basically, you write a, as you can see here, this is basic application, Silverlight application, which I have written, and just give a web, this thing, a web front end for this, so that your application can be run on any uh, browser which supports Silverlight. Okay, so as you can see here, when you go to this file, when you have this Silverlight installed on the system, go to this and go to project. Okay, you will have this Silverlight option. In this Silverlight, you can see you have a Silverlight application. So you just have to select this Silverlight application, and okay, application one, and then I say the 2000 plan project, which internet application. Okay. So when you create a Silverlight application, it also gives you an option to host your application in a new website. So as I told you, right, you create a Silverlight application and then host it on a website. So for that, you must have a web project also. So when you create this Silverlight application, it gives you an option whether you want to host the Silverlight application on a new website or not. If you want to do that, just select this, and this will just create a new website project for your YouTube. Okay, and what type of project that web project should be, even that can be selected here. So you want it to be a web application project, or just a website, or a web project. Okay, then you also have option to select which version of Silverlight you want to use. So you may want to use 2, 3, 4, and so on. So I'll be using this, and when I say okay, so it just gives me a blank project and a new web application flow. So this web application, you don't have to do anything here in this web application. This is just a host created for your this application. Okay, or you can say this is the client of this application, or this is the front end of your application. So you will be writing your code here. That code will be purely Windows code, and it is the responsibility of this web application to run your code on any platform. So basically, your user will be using this Silverlight application one.web project, and not the Silverlight application. Okay, so here you want to do anything, as you can see here, the entire code and everything is same. It's XAML code, which you have already seen so many times. So it's same XAML. Now, how does it help? How WPF helps first? So you have seen before WPF, when you were coding, you were using this form application. So form application was a very basic. You can see, you double click, you go to the click event handler, and there you do whatever you want. Next came the web applications. Now web applications uses HTML. HTML is an XML based language, and that is widely popular. So what they have done is this HTML, or does they have created their own standard, that is XAML, for writing HTML front end. Now, when they can write HTML front end, or when they can write website front end using HTML or XAML, so they thought, why can't we write the same thing? I mean, for our Windows or desktop applications also, why can't we use the same standard? Why to have two different standards? Why to have form here, or web form, form here, and a web form in a website, right? So to make the things standardized, what they have done is they have come up with WPF. So WPF is, you can say, it's an umbrella under which all the technologies exist. So you can have form application, you can even have Windows application, or so now you write front end for Windows application, or you write front end for web application. You don't have to write two separate code. The front end can be same. It can be same XAML file. So that is the uh, benefit of standardizing things. And once they have done this, so now XAML is the most used UI technology when we talk about Windows development, or Windows web development, or Microsoft development. Then the same thing, to make it platform independent, we have used, or we have now a new technology called Silverlight. Okay, so WPF is to standardize, and Silverlight is to make the things platform independent. Now everything here is same. You have border, button, checkbox, combo, data grid. Everything is same. There is no difference. Okay, so there is no difference in a XAML based UI and a WPF UI, except the fact that, sorry, XAML based and Silverlight application, except the fact that Silverlight is platform independent. Okay, now as you can see here, I have this uh, application ready, and we have used the same technique which we have used in WPF applications. Or so I have created a grid is already there by default. In that, I have created a button. The background of grid I have changed it to orange, and uh, button, we have this just placed a button, that's all. And when you click it, it takes you to the event listener, which is here. And here, if you want to write any code, you can write that. So if you run this, So as you can see here, your application will actually run on a web browser. Correct. So you just have a button here. We don't have any code for this. So that is basically what Silverlight is. So there is no change in how you write the code. Only thing is how you create the project. That is the difference. So how you create the project, how you and how your project is actually executed, right? So as you can see here, it by default creates this Silverlight app one test page for you, right? So you have made changes here, but it actually creates this test page for you, which actually gets executed. And as you can see here, there are two versions of this. One is ASPX and one is STM. So assume that if you are working on Linux, so obviously, uh, or sorry, it's not about that. It will just run any one of these, depending on the platform which you are using. So there are two versions of this. Whatever code you have written, so that code, front end code, does something. It performs some operations, right? So for that, it actually also writes a JS, that is JavaScript. So it is just a way to convert your Windows related code into a JavaScript related code, so that JavaScript based code can be run on any platform. It just depends on the browser which you are using. Next is NUnit. Now, NUnit is, let me check first whether I have NUnit installed. NUnit is again an obsolete technology. Nobody, very few places they are using this NUnit now. Basically, this is the technology or tool to write or to perform unit testing of your code. Now, unit testing is a part of testing. So testing basically is, and unit testing is something which will be done by the developer. The person who writes the code, he only performs the unit testing. Now, what actually is unit testing? Unit testing is, say, if I have written around 100 lines for a function. So all those 100 lines of the function should be used in some of the scenarios. If there is a line written in my code which is of no use, then that line of code is simply uh, wasting my memory space. That is simply wasting the, or that is simply, uh, you can say, increasing the code footprint, which is a bad programming habit, right? So if I have a if else branch, I have written if branch, I have written else branch, but what if my else branch is never getting hit? So if user is, if before calling my function I have a check which says that I can't enter some value of a data, and so data is filtered, and now due to that filtration of data, the else case is never going to be hit. So what is the use of this else here? So if I cannot uh, hit a line of code with a user input, then there is no use of such line of code in my program. So such code-wise testing. So generally, when a tester tests your code, the person who is testing is not having any access to your code. He tests only the functionality. He uh, gives some input. He knows what should be the desired output. If he gets it, the test case passed. If he doesn't get the desired output, the test case is said to be failed. But he is not bothered about how you have implemented that. He has nothing to do with that, right? And he has no access to your code. He is not interested. He is not bothered in the way you have done the coding or you have written the code. But there are chances that when you write the code, the functionality may be right, but there are some unnecessary code, some unwanted code, which is part of your program, or you have written say 4 to 5 lines in a code which is never being hit. So such type of things can be analyzed only by the developer, and for that the testing which developer does, that is called unit testing. Okay, so for unit testing you have a tool called NUnit, and as we can see here, when you create a project, now this NUnit thing is very old technology. So you'll have to go to this website, nunit.org. They actually go to this download section, and from there you will have to download this uh, any one of these binaries which is available here. They also have this documentation where you can go and you can go through any one of these, and you can see the how to write test cases, how to run your test cases and all. Okay, then you have you can see all this installation and all. Okay, now basic thing is uh, so if you are running a test case, or if you are uh, say we'll go to this reflection itself. Okay, and in this solution you can add a new project, and that project can be a generally now where is the unit? This n unit. You just open this. Okay, here you can create a new project specifying which test case you or which application you want to uh, test. So we have one NUnit test. So this is a sample NUnit project which I have here. Okay, and as you can see here, you can test a framework, you can test your core files, a core C sharp project. You can test if you have written a utility, or if you have written a console application, uh, UI application, GUI application, or a editor, whatever project you have written. So you just have to select a project. So I'll tell you how to do that. First, I'll just select a project and I'll say run. And as you can see here, it starts executing all the test cases. Okay, and here you can see in the bottom which test case of that particular test project it is running. And once all the test cases are run, so test cases are nothing but test scenario. So I'll just show you that. Okay, so now it has run. It says it has executed uh, the test cases, out of which 1197 has passed, 0 has failed, error was 0, inconclusive 0, invalid 0. So basically it gives you a uh, statistics of what all has been done. So that is what you see here in the test results. So you just run your test cases and you can see the results here. So that is what testing, or that is what this particular tool does. Okay, now to do this, so this was something which was already there, which I have created. Now basically when you will do this, you will actually have to create a new project. So create a new project, give whatever name you want to give to this, say sample, and see. Okay, so whenever you create a test project, next thing what you will have to do is you will have to go to this project, uh, add assembly. There you just have to add assembly which you want to test. So say here in our case, I want to test this. Uh, just now we have created a project, so we'll just use that. Okay, so I want to test this reflection.exe. Hmm. Okay, I'll just check this because I have created a project. I'll just check my another system. Okay, I'll just go through this. I think we'll have to have a class tomorrow too for this unit because. Okay, till then we'll move to next topic. So tracing. So tracing is nothing but it's again a technology to which actually enables you to see what went wrong or what actually went uh, to your web application. So if you write a desktop application and if there is something wrong, you can debug the code and see. But when once you install your application on the user, or if you have a website and that website has been deployed on a server and now users are using it, so now they won't be you can't now debug your website, correct? Or you can't now, I mean, you can no more debug your web application. So what will you do now? So the solution is traces. So traces are nothing but it's a way to log what all events have taken place uh, when the user was interacting with your website. So okay, so to enable trace, as you can see here, we just have this uh, trace enabled equals to true, which will have to just specify in any one of the page or any page where you want that tracing to be enabled. If you have to, and where are these traces stored then? So we'll just see that. So we'll just write this code trace enabled to the, say, So I have this trace enabled equals to true, and this I have entered here in this file. And when I execute this, so here anywhere you can just write trace equals to true. Okay, so as you can see here, this was an sorry, this was the application which we have created, and it does nothing. As you can see here, just print something on the screen. That's all on the main page. But what we have done is we went to the code and enabled the trace here to true. So trace has to enable here in the web config file. In web config file in system.web, just give a new property called trace and enabled equals to true or false, whatever it is. Now, as we see here, uh, as we have seen, whenever you enable trace is actually trace is nothing but what has been done on the website that will be logged to some file. And the file in this case is actually this trace.axt, where you will have the trace informations. And here it will have actually what all has been done that will be logged here. So request to the application, time of request, when was the request done, which file has been requested, status code 200 is actually for okay, verb is actually the action that it was a get, and you can also view the details as to what all things has been done on that particular time. So your system admin first when something goes wrong on your website, so what they'll do is they'll just uh, put this trace to true, and after that your system admin and even you, first your system admin can go through this trace file and see if he can get some information about this. If he is not able to get any information, he'll send he is not able to get any information, means if the information or something which went wrong is on very top level, he can get. If it is uh, on code level, say some information which you have put into it and which only a developer can get, so he'll send it to the developer, and as a developer you will have to go through this trace file to see what went wrong. Okay, now this trace itself, and say if I go back to this file and I run it again, 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 and then I open that trace.axt file. You can see that because I have requested for the file again and again. So all those requests are logged here. So one request is at 13, then 14, then 17, 12, 17, 15, and 17, 17. And you can view all the details too. So this is the default behavior of tracing, and this can be altered as well. So how to alter that? So to alter that, say, and in this application I have only one page, so I am requesting for only one page. If you have more than one page, you can request for that also. And say this one, right? I have a default page. I'll add one more page. Add new item, a web form. Let it be default to itself. Add. Okay, so as I have done the, I have set this tracing to true in the page in the web.config itself. So it is for the entire site. Okay, and this is axt. As you can see, one more line has come now. I'll go to the next page, that is default 2.aspx. Okay, now if I refresh this, so as you can see here now, default 2's entry is also there. Okay. Now assume that default to page is a static page. It is never going to change. So, and it is never going, no user is going to interact with that. So there won't be any user input. There won't be any output to the user. So obviously chances of getting errors or chances of misbehaving of this page is less. So why to enable this uh, trace for this page also. So when I enable tracing in the web.config, this tracing is for all the pages on that website. And if I want to exclude this default too, so how can that be done? So just come here and just say trace equals to false. So uh, now if I refresh this, so I have actually called this, and if I come here, this default to is now no more logged into the trace file. But if I go for the main page, it is still being logged. So this is how you exclude a page from being traced. Okay. Now other things can also be uh, done with this. Say you want the trace to be part of the page output itself, so even that can be done. Okay, so just go to this web config, and here page output equals to true. So what it actually does is the trace will be part of the page now. So now if I refresh this, as you can see here with the page, I am also, now this is not uh, trace.axt. This is just the page, the default page. As you can see here, this is the default page content, and with that content, it is also giving me the pages details of the trace. Okay, so when I say page output equals to true, it means the output of the trace will be concatenated with the output of the page. Okay, now as you can see here, there are around 1 2 3 4 5 yeah, 8. And say if you want, what if you want to limit this to, otherwise it will keep on accumulating at your server. So you can avoid this, and you can have a limit on the uh, number of traces that is given by this request limit. So just go to this, and you can also set request limit, and I'll set it to 5. So now I'll, when I run this, okay, and I come here, right now I'm having 8, but when I set request limit, it refreshes everything, it resets everything. I have 1 now here. I'll go back, refresh this, and refresh this to refresh thrice, so that I'll get 5 here. And then if I refresh here, as you can see here itself, there is no trace content, and when I come here, you can see there is still only 5. I'll refresh it again. So mainly I have refreshed it 6 times or 7 times, but as you can see here, the limit is set to 5, so it will have only 5 traces. So this is how you can limit the number of traces if you want. Okay, next is you can also have, so as you can see here with request limit, what it did was it actually okay, last was at 924, now it is 925, and if I request it now, 925 is not there because the limit has been reached. So it is still showing the old traces. What if I want only the recent traces to be there and not the old traces? Because as you can see here, it is of no use that it is giving you say around one your resource limit has been reached, and it is showing you say 1 week old traces. It's of no use. So because 1 week old, if there was any error, it would have been reported 1 week back itself, and it would have been resolved, right? So if you have an issue, the latest traces or the recent traces actually matter. So for that we have another this thing here, which is called recent, most recent, most recent, and you can set it to true. That means it will log the only most recent traces. Okay, so we have around 5 here. As you can see here, 926.49 is the latest one, and 926.44 is the first one. 5 is the resource limit which is already reached. And now if I refresh it, and you can see here on this page, the 44 is gone, and after 26 there is a new request on. So now you have log of only recent traces. Okay, so that is about default traces and how to change the behavior of default traces. Next is you can also have your specific traces which say you want to have uh, and which you can understand. So say you know that there may be some circumstances in which you will get some traces and you want to take care of that. So say this, okay, so this is our page, and in this page start this, and you can see the design. So basically I have first number, second number, and I'll divide it, and division result will come. Obviously when second number is 0, it should raise an exception, divide by 0. Okay, so obviously for this we have a code behind, and we will go to that. And here we'll write this code where we have lots of exceptions. Okay, now we'll just analyze this. So as you can see here, we are in try block. We have input the first number, second number, the message color and all being set. Basically the result will be division, and then in the message we'll put the result. Okay, now it can give you a format exceptions, say when user is not entering the number, he is entering something else. So in that case, we will the same message label, we'll change it, we are changing it to red color, and we are saying only numbers are allowed. Okay, and we are checking if the trace is enabled, then we'll write a trace message also, and trace message will be this format exception. Now what is this? Okay, we'll come to this. Next is overflow exception. Even it can come when number must be, say, when the number entered by the user has crossed the limits. Then in that case, so you can see here we are giving two types of methods. One is trace.write, another is trace.warn. So in trace.write, it's a normal write, but when we say trace.warn, it's a warning message. So sometimes you want it to be displayed. So warning will actually display it in red color. And next exception is divide by zero exception. In that case also we have this. We'll check whether the trace is enabled. If it is enabled, we'll just give this divide by zero exception. Okay. Last is if there is anything else unknown problem, then even that we'll take care. Okay, so this is how we have written this, and the backend is also done. And now, if you see this code, so as you can see here, okay, I'll remove this page output. Okay, so first number say 0, and when I divide, it gives me a message here itself, denominator cannot be 0. But what actually happens with the trace? So in the trace, as you can see here, this is this says, as you can see here, first was get request, second was post action, so it is a post back. And you can see, so what will happen, your client will see this, so client has an information that it has happened. Okay, so this is very basic and very general, so even client can understand this. Assume that client is not able to understand this, and what he will do, he'll call your customer care and he'll say that he is getting some exception. So in that case, what you will do, if your traces are enabled, so you'll just go to your website, go to this traces, and you will see that okay, some request has been come. You will confirm from your client around what time he has made the request. He'll say, you will confirm the time and which page he has done. He'll say default.axpx. Okay, you confirm that yes, default.axpx has been used, and it's a post. And then you just go to this details and see what he has done, which may return an error. Okay, so you go here and you can see here, because you have in divide by zero case you have given warning, so you can see here there is a message which you can understand easily. So these are custom traces which you can put in your code, and these custom traces should be taken care. So you cannot write traces as and when as you want. You must check whether traces are enabled or not. If it is not enabled, then you must not write. So this is there. If traces are enabled, only then this part of the code will be executed. So that is what custom traces are. So why do you write custom traces? Because uh, generally, if you see, this is something which is system generated default traces. You may not be, and you may know better about your application that when and how this can be mishandled. So for that, you just write the custom traces which you can understand instantly and which you can uh, report to your client or customer that this has been done, take care, don't do in this way, or you can explain the uh, circumstances to the customer. So that is what tracing is. Okay.
So tracing is only for this type of application, or
Yeah,
for the
this is
Windows
for
Form
the
application also?
for Windows Form applications. You have uh, a different mechanism. You have exception handling. You have debugging. You can debug your application, but you cannot debug a web application which is already deployed, right?
Okay,
So to
yeah.
debug, you need its totally different environment. So to avoid debugging in customer environment and still get information, you have something called traces.
Okay.
So that was about what you have requested. NUnit, I'll just go through that. I'll just because I have to see where the project is, and so that again one class I can take. But NUnit is an obsolete technology, but still, if somebody uses it, they may ask you some questions on this. Okay. Next comes this MSBI. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Pradeep. Get is Get and post, they are the two methods to interact with the server. In get request, when you request for the first time, it is called get. Okay, and so a page is there. I am requesting it for the first time. Then that request is called the get request. After that page comes to me. On that page, I have some form. I fill the form, enter the data, and I say I request for the same page again. So this is called post back. Okay, and this is one difference. Second difference is when you use get post when you use get method to post a form, or when you use a post method to post a form. So these two are different things. First was page request. This is form request. So when you request a form, at that time the form data is uh, concatenated with the URL. So with the URL itself, you can see you have the form data, right? So this is called get. But what if you have a password here and your password is displayed here? So that should not be allowed. So in that case, you will have to use post. So post doesn't concatenate your information with the URL. It concatenates your information with the URL. Information is form data. Okay. So if you have some sensitive data, you will not use get. Right now, there is another side effect of this. As get concatenates with the URL, post does not concatenate with the URL, and URL has a limit on the number of characters. Correct? Not 255, I think it is 1024 or something like that. You can check that. So there is a limit on the number of characters in the URL. So obviously there will be a limit on the number of characters which you can concatenate with the URL from the form data. So if you have small number of uh, form data which can fit into this URL, then only you should use get. If you have a huge number of data transferred from the form to the server, then you should not use get. Why? Because get will try to send it through the URL. URL has limit, so there are chances of your data to be uh, stripped or data can be lost. So if it is secure data, use post. And this does not mean that your password is safe now. This is just that your password or your critical data will not be openly visible in the URL. Okay, because you are anyway sending that, right? Using that post array or get array. It is going to the backend. So data is still being transferred, it can be still hacked. Only thing is, a novice cannot know your password if you are using post. Okay. Now this there are which is SSIS, SSAS, and SSRS. Now this, as I told you earlier, this is a huge topic, and this is something which is part of MSBI, Microsoft Business Intelligence. So as a fresher, nobody asks you, but as you told me about the way job is being or job market is there, so when you have 1 year or 2 year of experience, you can expect questions on this. What I'll do is I have already shared one slide on this MSBI, which just gives you a basic introduction to business intelligence. What is business intelligence and all. Where is that? Yeah, here. So just go through this. It just tells you what is data warehousing, what is data mining, why it is required, and what all features we have in and what all we have with this Microsoft, that is MSBI. Okay, so I'll just give you a brief idea of what is this. So see, the websites and all is okay. You don't have much to do with MSBI there. But when you write a huge application, say uh, there is a company who analyzes how, say you are an online marketing or online, yeah, say marketing company, and you have got a new client. So you will have to, you cannot go blindly and publish their ads in all the regions, publish their ads in all the seasons, or publish their ads in all the languages available on this planet, right? So it always depends on the product. It depends on the region in which the product is mostly being used. It depends on the season in which the product will be mostly used. It basically it depends on the circumstances. It also depends on, or so from where will you get this information about the circumstances, about the situations, or about the favorable conditions, all these things. So to get that information must be stored somewhere. Now to store that information or the storage of information in a way so that it can be used later efficiently, that is called data warehousing. Okay, so data warehousing is storing and constructing your data so that it can be used later efficiently. And the second part is data mining. Only if your data is warehoused properly, you can mine it. Right? Name itself says mine. It means you extract information from the data. Data is just data, raw data. Raw data is of no use. Is if I give you population of India, all the names of the people and their age, everything in an Excel sheet, it's of no use, right? Unless and until I arrange it according to their age, I arrange it according to their, say, occupation or their qualification, gender, region. If they are not arranged like that, if they are not arranged properly, it is of no use. Random data is of no use. So data needs to be processed. Data needs to be stored properly. That is what data warehousing is. And then when you extract information from that warehouse data, that is called data mining. You are mining information from data. So information and data is different. Okay. And based on that information, what why should I need that information? So that I can take some future decisions. I can choke out some plans or strategy, right? Why I need to do that? So that I can get some profit. Correct. So data warehousing and data mining actually adds intelligence to the data. So your data is, you have 50 GB of data. It's of no use if it has no knowledge, if it has no intelligence. So adding intelligence, which type of intelligence? Business intelligence to data is called BI, business intelligence. So in business intelligence, we study these two things, data warehousing and data mining. And to do that, there are different vendors who do that. There is Oracle, who has OBIEE, something like that. There is SAP, and there is now new technology called Hadoop and Tableau. So there are different technologies or vendors providing solutions for data warehousing and data mining. MSBI is one of them, Microsoft Business Intelligence. Okay, so MSBI has basically three parts which actually performs this task for you. So first is IS, that is SS is actually the first two S actually represents SQL Server. So using SQL Server, this entire MSBI has been designed. So that's why these three services also start with SS. SSIS actually for stands for integration services, AS stands for analysis service, and RS stands for reporting service. So when I say IS, integration service, so you have, so first part is data warehousing. There you have lot of information to store it uh, in a manner so that it can be used later. So we can, and that data can come from different sources. It can come from an Excel file, it can come from a PDF file, it can come from a CSV file, it can come from a database itself. So all those database or data, all that data from different sources, if it is useful for your application or for your business, you will have to integrate all that data at one place. There is no use in having multiple locations for your database or in having multiple formats of your database. So all that data must be collected and integrated. Integrated means they should have now a single format, not different formats. So that is the purpose of this SSIS. Okay. Next is, just having data is not enough. You should be, or your application should be able to analyze that data. Now in India there are a lot of elections going on, right? So in if you follow Indian elections, then you will say that there will be a lot of analysis done on exit polls and opinion polls, who is going to win, or who's what was the last time, what was the results. Based on that, they will predict what will be this time the result and all. So all this analysis is done or has to be done, otherwise the data which you have stored is of no use. So that analysis task is done by this analysis service. So there are a lot of tools to do that analysis, lot of mathematics Excel's tool, lot of statistical tools which does this analysis for you. So that is called SSAS. So IS does integration of data, AS does analysis of data. So how to do this analysis of data? So basically you can understand that the data is actually arranged in terms of cubes. It is not just table. If you have just a table of data, it's of no use unless and until it is see, because if I have uh, say I have a company and I have got a project from a company uh, whose marketing I have to do, right? So I'll have to arrange that data year wise. If I say they have the sales data, so I have to first arrange the data in year wise. I have to arrange the data in region wise also. Even I may have to arrange the data according to their products. Which product, which year, which region has the most sales, right? So he has given me only the Excel sheet where he has the data, but I'll have to arrange this in different dimensions, year wise, region wise, sales wise, all this, all the data which he has given, or product wise, all the data which he has given, I have to arrange that so that it can be analyzed. So that an ISIS, IS and AS, they both are closely related. Okay, so there is a term in data warehousing and data mining called cubing. So your data is actually arranged in cube. Cube has different dimensions. You take one dimension, that will be year wise, another dimension that will be say region wise, and like that. So that is done in this AS. You will write complex queries to extract the data. So IS is integration, AS is analysis, and reporting is actually the extraction. So whatever has been analyzed and extracted, AS or the analysis service is both analysis and extraction. But after you have extracted data, that must be presented in a presentable format. Those services are provided by the tools of SSRS. So in MSBI, when you study, you have to study these three things: how to integrate data, how to analyze data, and how to represent the data or reporting services, right? So obviously this is not something which you can learn in 2 or 3 classes, but the introduction has been given here. And being a fresher, don't expect that they'll ask you how to use this and all, but you can just go through this to know about the various terminologies which will be there and which they can ask you. So this is shared in this Dropbox MSP. You can just go through this. If you have any doubt, you can write me a mail and all. Just send it to me. Next, we'll have another around 15 minutes to half an hour session on this NUnit sometimes. I'll just check this, I'll just find this, and I'll let you know when we can have this class on this NUnit.
Okay.
Okay then, thank you.
Thank you. So the recorded session will be uploaded for today?
Yeah, I think it's around 2.5